Mr. Harrison, you are suing the defendant, Ms. Grant, for paternity fraud. You've also petitioned the court to remove your name from the acknowledgement of paternity document for 4-year-old Aaliyah Harrison because you claim you signed it under false pretenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Grant, you claim you may have lied about your ongoing affair, but you did not lie about Mr. Harrison being your daughter's biological father.
Absolutely, Your Honor. Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Harrison, explain, why are you suing for fraud?
Well, Your Honor, I signed my acknowledgement for paternity for my daughter, and I've done everything for her since the day she's been born. I've had several people come to me through Facebook and through text messaging on my phone saying that, Aaliyah is not your daughter. I don't care what, Miss Grant is saying, she is not your daughter.
Are they explaining what they base this assertion on?
Well, apparently it's through several of her friends, that
they're
maybe she's had.
They're not any kind of friends of mine, Your Honor, if they're going around talking behind my back.
Well, see, I have to say that the person that gave me these accusations had no reason other than the fact that they had, had an argument and she felt like she had to get a little bit of revenge on her, and started telling me things such as, but also said, this child does not look anything like you. You need to start doing a little bit of investigation.
Well, she's biracial, Your Honor. What is she supposed to look like? She looks like herself.
She doesn't look like she has anything.
Ms. Grant, you do admit you cheated, is that correct?
Yes, I had a relationship with a man that I had met when I was very young. I met him when I was 18 years old. He was a good friend to me.
Mr. Harrison, when did you find out about this?
Your Honor,
when he went snooping through my phone.
I have to say, she had this affair with this person for 15 years. I've only been with her for 8. So this goes way before we were ever even together in the first place. So after 8 years with her and a previous child before the one in question, we've already had a child together. So she's been cheating on me literally the entire 8-year span that we were together, including the time of our first child.
So just take me to the day when you found out.
I found out when I was bringing home like a dryer or something like that and asked her to help me out bringing it in. And she wasn't helping me the way I needed to be helped getting it through the door. And I started getting maybe a little bit upset, just trying to bring a big washer and I needed help guiding it through. She got upset and she said, I just don't want to do this anymore. I just don't want to do it anymore.
I didn't want to have to keep lying to him, Your Honor. I got tired of, being dishonest and being disrespectful in my relationship. And I gave him every option to, decide what he wanted to do. And so I decided that instead of letting somebody else blackmail me like my so-called friend had done.
How about honesty? How about honesty 7 years ago? How about, honesty at the very beginning?
Well, and I want to understand what happened that day. So out of the blue, help me move the washer turns into, I just don't want to do this.
It turns into him getting frustrated and fussing and cursing. And I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore with you.
And so, Ms. Grant, who was this person?
This person was a friend of mine. I had met this person when I was 18 years old. I was a single parent of a 2-year-old daughter at the time. He helped me with her. He helped me financially. He has bought cars. He has paid rent. He has paid bills. Okay? When I met Mr. Harrison and I told my friend, I'm in love and we're gonna have a baby. And he wished me the best. He said, I'm gonna bow out gracefully. I know you'd like to get married. And that wasn't his intention for me. And so, like a real friend, he just wanted to know how I was doing.
Was this strictly platonic or was this a sexual relationship?
At times it was sexual, but for the most part, it was platonic while I was with Mr. Harrison.
But this whole time, she would sit there and go run off.
How did you manage to do this for 15 years, but 8 years while you were with Mr. Harrison? How did you pull this off?
Lies.
Non-stop, the entire time. Because I've asked her several times throughout this entire 8-year relationship if she's ever cheated. Absolutely not. I would never cheat on you.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Harrison is suing you.
Yes, ma'am.
For paternity fraud.
Yes, ma'am.
Because he says he signed the acknowledgement of paternity under false pretenses because he feels like you misled him, lied.
Yes, but I didn't lie about the paternity. I lied about whether or not I was seeing somebody, but like I said, the person wasn't even in our area at the time.
So you're saying you were not sleeping with this person?
Not at that time, no.
During the time Aaliyah was conceived.
But how am I supposed to ever believe that after an entire 8-year relationship? Aaliyah's only 4 now. You see what I'm saying? That's a long time to supposedly not just be,
that's a long time,
with
but that's
them.
why
So
we're
your
here
point
now.
is, how do I believe that
Well,
when
she
you
sat
already
there and
admit?
told me when she admitted up to all this, she told me, yes, it's been going on the whole time.
But I also, when I came clean, I gave you the option whether or not you wanted to stay, whether or not you wanted to go ahead and call it quits for good, forever.
Yes, you're right.
Or if you wanted to go ahead and, lay it out all out
Because I'm not
on
a
the line.
deadbeat and
Because
actually
he's
want to be
cheated on
around
me
my
too.
children if they're mine. I'm not going to
cheated on
sit
me
there.
too.
I'm not going to sit there. I told her time and time again, I said, I don't care how bad at times our relationship is. Let's wait until the kids get older so that they can understand a little bit better than dad just leaving at 4 and 7 years old. The thing is, I love her to death. She's my best friend, and she really is.
Look,
I could spend 100
There
hours straight with her
are a
and
lot
never.
of people out here that love people,
It's
but
the
don't
lies.
trust them.
It's the
Absolutely.
lies. That's all it boils down to is lies. That's it. It's just the lies. I feel like she will lie for no reason whatsoever.
If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. When were you last intimate with this other guy?
December.
In December.
Before Mr. Harrison and I decided to try and reconcile. We had been living apart for almost 10 months.
Almost 10 months.
And so this is just months ago, 2 months ago.
Let me
that you
also
really
say this. I had major ankle surgery in February of 2014. She decided that was the time she wanted to break up. And while I'm immobile, I can't even get up from the couch. After major ankle surgery, she was dolling up and darting out the door while I had to watch the kids on crutches, couldn't even get off the couch.
And despite this, you still wanted to be with her.
Absolutely. I tried. And it wasn't, I love her and I love my kids so much, that I was willing to bend over backwards and forgive her for all of her misdeeds. All of them.
What about all your misdeeds?
Every single
Don't sit
one
there
of
and
them.
act like you haven't cheated on me.
I'm not saying
He
that.
cheated on me with someone who is, he's an indie pro wrestler. He cheated on me with someone who they call ring rats. They call them ring rats for a reason, Your Honor.
Okay. The relationship is definitely torn.
Yes.
In turmoil.
And now I was ready to lay it all out on the line.
And now the paternity, though, of this beautiful young child is in question.
I'm to the point where, we laid everything out on the
But you
table.
feel like it was all false pretenses, that she lied the entire time and set you up for this. That's what paternity fraud is.
Yeah.
I did lie. I admit to lying about being
So how am I to know?
with
How am I
somebody
to
else
know?
here and there.
How am I to
So
know?
do you also admit, Ms. Grant, to basically defrauding him, basically saying this is your child when you knew for certain that it was not his child? Did you do that?
No, ma'am. I knew 100% that she was his child because she was conceived during a blizzard.
What does snow on the ground have to do with a child's paternity?
Because the other person doesn't like the cold weather and he went to Florida.
She feels like she could sit
He
there
was
and
not
name
there.
the day of conception.
I
with her.
can.
And I don't see how.
Hold on. Let me. I have a conception calculator here. I want to understand this. So, what day was Aaliyah born?
Her birthday is September 15th of 2010.
September 15th, 2010. If her birthday's September 15th, the dates of conception would be somewhere between December 19th to December 27th.
Yes, ma'am. Her birthday is September 15th.
You say this is a blizzard. This is how you know it could not be the other man's child, is because this man doesn't like the
He
cold.
took off.
And so he was not there. He was gone.
Yeah, he took off.
All right, so let me pull up the weather.
It doesn't make much sense, Your Honor, because this person
I'm
doesn't
sorry,
have
it
the
makes
time
sense
in
to
the
me. That
time
person
to
has the
leave.
time and the money to do whatever he wants.
It says here, snowfall, drifts several feet deep.
It was a bad year. It was a bad year the year before as well. I mean, we had ice storms that almost like
So
mirrored
the
each other.
bottom line
year
is the
before.
weather that Ms. Grant is describing is in fact true, that it was very snowy weather. And her recollection is this gentleman that she has had this 15-year-long affair does not like the snow, so he was gone. Do you believe that assertion or not?
No, no, I don't.
That's what I wanted
No,
to understand.
I don't.
I don't expect him to believe it. I expect him to believe cold, hard facts and your results.
Everything in me wants to believe everything she said. I've been with her 8 years, almost 9. I want to believe everything.
Off and on, not straight through, because there's been times where he hasn't even
ups and downs. Like I said, there's been ups and downs.
Time zone as me.
Miss Grant, you do understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on your testimony and what you've admitted to in your relationship, that at this point he just doesn't believe
I don't expect for him to believe
say.
anything, but he also, we're at the point where we don't believe each other about anything except for what time it is and if it's sunny outside or not.
I cannot go any further in the relationship as far as marrying her, moving back into the house with her until I get something in concrete about Aaliyah.
And my kids keep coming to me and asking me, when he comes to visit, where's Daddy going?
I have to also sit there and say,
explain that to a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old.
She has 3 other kids other than mine that I've also taken in.
So the truth is the stakes are very high.
Yes,
and it's
ma'am.
not just this relationship on the line. There's an entire family.
5 people. 5 people inside the house right now
people.
are affected by what's going on.
More than 5 people.
And
I have people right now telling me that I ought to be ashamed of myself for even being here to prove to this man who I am in love with at this very moment, even though he is accusing me of not knowing who the father of my child is, that I ought to be ashamed of myself for wanting to come in front of you and prove to him and the rest of the world that, yes, I've done wrong, but I'm willing to admit that, and I'm willing to right those wrongs for my children.
But Miss Grant, as you stand there and I see how emotional you are when you speak.
Yes, ma'am.
You do understand that much of this you've caused
yes, ma'am.
by this 15-year-long affair and
pure
the secret.
dishonesty. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But your
and I'm willing to
point
admit
is that you're ready now to just step up to the plate, admit what you've done wrong.
Because he has the right to know.
When we got into it and she
I
goes,
was willing to lay it all out
John is
there
leaving.
so that he could be there for the kids if he wanted to be. If he doesn't believe that she's his, that's his problem.
And so if Aaliyah is not your biological daughter, what are you gonna do? Are you leaving the family? Are you gonna try to work this out?
I just think after all the lies, I just don't think I could bring myself to reconcile again with her. Her friend that had hit me up on
She's
Facebook
not
and
any
texted,
type of friend of mine. She
apparently
would
told
blackmail
her
me to get her
friend
way.
that I was not her dad. So that's
Like she knows she wasn't there with us.
Apparently you told her.
No, I didn't.
I don't know.
Okay.
Her friend told you that Miss Grant said that you're not the father.
Yes.
I never said that.
You state, and you are suing because you believe, Mr. Harrison, that Miss Grant purposefully, with intention, lied to you about the fact that you were Aaliyah's biological father.
I don't think it's a question of her trapping me or whatnot. I think it was more or less, it was the time, and when she found out she was pregnant, we both kind of found out at the same time, and I was supposed to be the only one around, and with her wanting to break up with me just on spite because she didn't want to come clean and tell the truth.
I understand that, but you have to understand that there is a difference as you talk about a legal cause for paternity fraud. There is a difference between not wanting to tell my partner, my mate, that I've also had an affair, to purposefully, with intention, defrauding him, telling him, you are the father of this child, when I know for certain that somebody else is, and making you sign an acknowledgement of paternity. Those are 2 completely different things. And even though the lie she told, the lie she lived, was morally wrong on every level, the legal foundation for paternity fraud has just not been presented here in this courtroom today. And, as I look to the law in your home state, even though you're able to sue for paternity fraud, there's a statute of limitations.
It's non-contestable after 24 months, Your Honor. He's the daddy.
You know Aaliyah's 4 now.
Yes.
You would have had 2
5.
years. And you have a lot on the line here. Yes, morally, wrong on every level. Legally, not paternity fraud.
He doesn't believe she's his because of the
I think it's time for the results. Are we ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Harrison versus Grant, when it comes to 4-year-old Aaliyah Harrison, It has been determined by this court. Mr. Harrison, you are her father.
I told you.
I'm happy.
Good, good. How do you feel, Ms. Grant?
I feel vindicated, Your Honor. Absolutely. I may have lied about my affair, but I know who the father of my child is.
Ms. Bovill, 2 years ago, you and your mother were shocked when the man you always believed is your dad told you he is not your biological father. You tried to bring the defendant to paternity court 6 months ago, but say he backed out of his appearance. Now that he is here today, you state the DNA results will finally prove your case. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bovill, you claim for more than 20 years you held on to a secret and had no choice but to confess your belief that Ms. Bovill's father is another man. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Bovill, tell me what happened 2 years ago.
2 years ago, I received a phone call from another brother of mine stating that my dad had doubts that if he was my father or not due to activities that happened before I was born. That was during Thanksgiving on a holiday weekend. And
Can you be more specific? You say activities. What kind of activities?
He felt like my mom was unfaithful and was doing things that wasn't right within the relationship.
Understood.
So now, when I got the phone call, I kind of brushed it off, and then my brother James was on the phone with my dad, and that's when I heard him out of his own mouth say that he wanted to have a DNA test because he needed his own closure just to know if I was his daughter or not.
And how old were you when this conversation happened?
25.
So your whole life, until you were 25 years old, you think this man is your father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Duvall, what in the world are you thinking when your daughter gets this call?
I was in shock. I had no clue that he ever doubted that Carrie was his daughter. Carrie was devastated.
Well, I
she
expect
was
so.
My daughter broke down, and this is my only daughter.
Mr. Bovill,
Yes,
you
Your Honor.
decided to make this call on Thanksgiving weekend, sir?
I asked one of my sons for Carrie's number because I wanted to share something with him. When I told my son how I felt about this situation that we're here today for, my sons brought the information to Carrie.
What got you to this point? What led you to this point where you
Okay.
said, I have to talk about this?
Okay, well, when I first met Regina, I lived in Boston. Regina lived in Springfield. And when I relocated from Boston to Springfield, the first 2 weeks I got there, people I didn't even know was telling me, yo, this guy's talking about that's his woman. And so I goes to Regina and I asked her, Regina, what this guy talking about? I only been in this town for 2 weeks. This went on for like 10 years. See what I'm saying?
10 years?
10 years. And at the same time, I even addressed it to Regina. Why does he keep telling her that? Even her brothers had to go to him and check him on that. Am I right
What's
or wrong?
going on here, Ms. Duvall?
First of all, there is no truth to none of this.
What he just said.
Yes, let's start there. Second of all, Mr. Bovill, if you doubted me, if you did not trust me, why did you stay? If you felt like that all those years, you should have left.
So all of these years, Mr. Bovill, you believe that this other man, who's married to a family member, could be Carrie's biological father?
Yes, Your Honor. What convinced me was 4 years ago, I went to North Carolina, and I finally met some of Carrie's cousins. And the person that I'm talking to, one of her cousins, is his granddaughter. Your Honor, if I had a picture and showed it to you right now of her cousin, you would believe that would be Carrie. If I showed you her picture, you would believe that was Carrie. And that's when I said, I knew I was right. I knew I was right.
You saw a picture of this man's granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
And it looks exactly like.
I said, that's my, and I tears came out of my eyes. And that's when I said, I knew I was right. I knew I was right.
If you look at anybody in my family, from my first cousins down to my third cousins, we all have a same trait. One, we're all blind. We all wear glasses. Two, we all smile exactly the same. And the older I get, the more I start looking like my other cousin. The older she get, another cousin starts looking like me. It's in our genes. We all look alike.
So, Mr. Bovill, all of these years, you have these doubts,
I had these
but
doubts.
you never share them.
The things that went on before Carrie was born, the relationship they had, because her and this person I'm talking about, they did, I mean, after everybody was telling me to keep my eyes on them, watching them, now I'm watching them too. They used to disappear all the time. Oh, he's my wish partner, he was my best friend before you came to pick
Your
up.
Honor, first of all, we are a very close-knit family. The grandchildren are 70 plus deep of my mother's grands and great-grands, and all of them look alike. But the one thing that I did not want to happen here is that my family values would be tarnished with the babbling and the things that he is saying that has no substance to them.
So let me ask you this. During the window of time in which Carrie was conceived, the question really becomes, were you intimate with anyone else during that time?
No, ma'am.
Where there could be another potential father for this beautiful young
No,
woman?
ma'am.
At the end of the day, in paternity court, that's the question we have to answer. Now, what is interesting is in the court papers, I found her birth certificate. Now, on her birth certificate, there is no father listed.
I never found, none of my names on none of my kids' birth certificate.
You didn't let them sign the birth certificate, Ms. Duvall?
Nope.
Ma'am, no,
nope.
that's not the case.
Nope.
Mr. Bovill never took the time to go there and sign those birth certificates. I told him time and time again, you are a grown man. Go to that hospital, to the wherever, and sign your children's birth certificates. I cannot sign them for you.
Like I said, we all made mistakes. At the time, before Carrie was born, we both made mistakes. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I'm not holding no grudge against her, but them 10 years of living in Springfield, people that I didn't know coming up to me, see what I'm saying? Even when we moved to South Carolina, the same person was so infatuated with Regina. Now, she's my wife now. Anything that I did with my kids, he got mad.
You are saying that this gentleman interfered in your relationship, in your parenting, so much that you felt like Ms. Duvall and this person, they were having a relationship.
Yes.
And this was all occurring during the window of time in which Carrie was conceived and born. This was
Yes.
going on all of that time.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did he ever say anything to you specifically about actually being Carrie's father?
Yes, he did. When
What
I
did he
moved to
say?
South Carolina, he gonna say, that's my baby. That's my baby. See what I'm saying?
About
I didn't-
Carrie?
Yeah, see, I would say, you know how, yeah, about Carrie. That's my baby. That's my
That
baby.
is a lie straight from hell.
Your Honor.
That's a lie
You know
straight
what?
from hell.
Your
So
Honor.
let me ask you this, and we are in court, and I need your answer to be truthful. Why would they start this type of rumor? Why?
Your Honor.
Especially a person in the family. What would be the motive?
The motive to me, if he was saying any of that, the motive was he was just a liar too.
Were you ever intimate with this other man?
No. For the 100th time, no. I wouldn't even think about being in nothing with this man.
When Carrie was born, even though I had these doubts, I still loved her and I treated her like she was mine.
How? How can you say?
How? Because
how
you
can
know
you
why?
say that in
Because
court?
how?
You have never been a father.
Because you know
You
what?
have
You know
never
what?
been
You
a
know what?
father. You
You know
stop
what?
lying
Your
like
Honor,
you
the pictures that I
have.
gave you.
You have
the pictures-
never.
Don't talk over
you
her,
have
Mr. Bovill.
never.
All right.
You came to graduation. You ain't come to mine.
You know what? And I apologize for
No,
that because you know, I
no,
could
'cause
not.
You've never been a
you know
father.
what?
You had
Your
one
Honor,
birthday party for me. You gave me, but you sent boxes of clothes. Giving me things is not being a father. I suffer because I've
And
never
you know what? You did
had
suffer.
you.
It's not fair. You know what's
It's
not
not
fair, Carrie?
fair.
I owe you an
Unspeakable.
apology, Carrie. You know, I owe you an apology.
I suffer. My brothers are suffering.
Yeah, you
because
suffered.
of
You
y'all.
did. And I owe you apologies.
And
You
yes,
know
you
what?
owe me an apology.
Mr. Bovill,
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm gonna ask you one last time to be so. I'm so sick of hearing your mouth.
All right, I won't say.
I mean,
another
just
word,
the
Your Honor.
sound of your voice.
I won't say another
in
word,
my
Your Honor.
ear right now, while
won't say
this
another
young
word.
girl is trying to express to you what your absence, what your dysfunction, what your mistakes have cost her.
Yes, you right, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Miss Bovill. You say you and your brothers have suffered.
We all have suffered. I have let people hurt me because of you and not having the love of a father. And if you have a father, you would never understand what not having a father does to you, especially being a Black woman. And I love God with all my heart, but
that
it
was your mother
them.
and your grandmother's
It was
fault.
not them. You
They
were
would not let me come
grown.
see
Mr.
you.
Bovill,
You
don't
are
make me come off this
grown.
bench.
You are grown. And my mother has never, even when we tried to down talk you, she used to say, no, that's still your father. My grandmother never, she brought us to Massachusetts and sent us to your mother to visit you.
My mother did that. My mother.
How? My grandmother brought us on a bus from South Carolina
No, she
to
didn't. No, she
Massachusetts.
didn't. My mother
that
did.
picture that I sent here with me and his other daughter and my other two brothers sitting on the couch was when we went to Boston. That was the first time I've been back to Boston since I was born that I can remember.
And when you went back, did he make an attempt to get to know you, to see you?
He was in jail, so that was the only thing I got to see
You know
him.
what,
I
yeah.
went a couple of years ago. My aunt that lives in Massachusetts brought me there for Christmas. And I went and stayed with my sister. And I went and visited him and I spent the day with him. And that was it. But the entire time we together, all he can talk about is the past of him and my mother. That has absolutely nothing to do with me. I'm 25. I'm not a child. I know what's going on. I'm very intelligent. I have a brain. I don't give two flying bananas about what they done before me. He talking about 10 years, but I don't care. It has nothing to do with me.
Yes.
I'm the child here. And you have to be able and you to get over that because it's not, I shouldn't be doing this right now. I shouldn't be having to do this with you.
You are correct.
She wanted
You
to say-
are correct. And you are a smart young woman. And I think you can see now, even for me, why I am getting so agitated, because everybody's talking in circles, everybody got stories, and I still don't have a great description as to what the circumstances were surrounding your conception. That's really all I'm here to get to.
There is
Because that really is the end-all be-all of this particular saga. This particular moment in time is about that, to get the answer you need. Now, I want to hear your story, and part of that is your witness. And you brought someone with you. I would like you to stand, sir, please. And state your name for the court.
James Bovill III.
Please step to the podium, Mr. Bovill. I'd like to hear from you. And so Mr. Bovill is your father.
Yeah, that's my father.
You're her brother.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you came to court to testify today as to?
Me and my dad have a close relationship, so like, he had tell me this like 4 years ago, a few years ago when he come down south, but you know, I had kind of like, I had brushed it off, you know, because it was really like, I didn't really find it like necessary to interrupt my sister with it, so I didn't tell her.
So he
about it.
mentioned it to you, but you decided not to say anything to your sister at the time.
Yeah, I didn't feel like the time was right and the place was right to.
What did he say to you in particular?
I mean, when he seen that family member, he was like, don't she look just like Carrie? This could be such and such baby. So only thing I can go by is what he believed and how he feel. I can't go off for like, the only thing I could do is just step in the gateway and be there for, which is my sister.
Did he say he was not Carrie's father, or did he say he wasn't sure?
He said he wasn't sure.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Jerome, I'm ready for the results. These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Duvall Bovill versus Bovill. When it comes to 25-year-old Carrie Bovill, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Bovill, you are the father.
I knew he was my father, but now that he knows and he has no more reason to doubt me as his daughter, I really just want to tell him that I'm so sorry that you missed out. And I'm so sorry that you went through all that you had to go through, Dad, because I know it was a bad time in both of y'all's life, and I just want to say that I forgive you. I forgive you for everything.